right, welcome everybody. Again, thank you for being at Dreamforce. Hopefully you guys all had a good time in the last couple of days, or we're at the home stretch now. My name is Sam Duvedi. I'm a sales engineer at Salesforce.com. We're joined today by our distinguished panelists. We'll have a good discussion, hopefully, on the professional services track. We're going to talk about how some small firms have gotten big clients and done really well by themselves, and also with the Salesforce.com technology. Just going to go through these couple slides real quick. We have our safe harbor statement. Nothing new. I'm sure you guys have seen that a few times at Dreamforce now. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So the agenda is pretty brief. We're going to just do a quick introduction. We're going to talk to our panelists. They're going to talk about their organizations, what they are, who they do, or what they do. We're going to have a quick Q&A and a panel discussion. I want to keep you guys involved the whole time. So let's talk about this track we're in. We're talking about professional services firm, and Salesforce.com obviously is a technology and an organization that's being used in every different area of the business, but it's specifically also in the professional services firm as well. We currently have over 6,000 customers only in the professional services track using Salesforce.com as a service, as a software. There's a few names up here in different areas: consulting, training, legal and compliance. We have a couple of our panelists today in that particular vertical: Law Prospector, which I'm going to talk about, and Phil Neal Walker Law Corporation. Also in staffing and business services. I believe a lot of you guys are in that particular vertical, working with staffing and business services. So we have David from Voices.com in that particular area. So these are some of the names, and there's obviously a lot more if you guys need more information on some of the other organizations that use Salesforce today in professional services. We'll be happy to share that with you at a later time. So talking about Salesforce.com, we have this messaging around Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Custom Cloud. Essentially, Sales Cloud is your sales organization. It's all the sales aspects, sales tools that you utilize today. We definitely have professional services and service organizations using us in that particular area, working with leads, and you'll see some examples through our discussion today, working opportunities in all those different areas, but also services, right? Serving your customers. We have a great portal technology, customer portals, as an avenue for you to share information and communicate with your customers, and you'll see some of those examples. And obviously, Custom Cloud, how you can build applications to provide services to your customers using the Salesforce.com technology, and I'm sure you're going to see a couple of examples through our discussions today. All right, without spending much more time on those slides, I'm going to do a quick introduction for our panel here. We have David Ciccarelli from Voices.com. David flew all the way from London, Ontario, in Canada. So we'd like to thank him for joining us here today. We're going to talk to David a little bit more and understanding his role at Voices.com. We also have Ken Lopez from Law Prospector. Ken as well has traveled to be here with us today and would love to share some of his thoughts. And we have Phil Neal Walker from the Phil Neal Walker Corporation, the founder and CEO of the organization, and he would also love to share some of his vision and ideas. And I've already talked to you guys about myself. All right, so we'll get started with David. David, thank you for being here again. David Ciccarelli, he's the founder and CEO of Voices.com. Not sure if some of you guys have heard about it. I'm sure David's going to talk to you about the organization. Just to give you a brief intro, Voices.com is a small organization based out of London, Ontario, in Canada, which is completely revolutionizing the world of providing voice technology through the internet. David's formed a marketplace where you can go online, listen to voice recordings, and get some of the services through his website. I'm going to let David maybe spend a...
I should hire this guy. He's doing my job.
Right.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Yeah, in short, basically we operate a marketplace which is similar to like an eBay-style marketplace where you have buyers and sellers, except we do it for voiceovers. So voiceovers for radio commercials and training videos and sales presentations. So anytime phone systems are ours, anytime you hear the human voice, we'd like to think that those voice talent come from our website. So basically, we've been running Salesforce for about 5 years. We only have a very small team of about 10 users. But because it's a web application, anybody can sign up for free. We also have tiered services, but we have 100,000 customers. So really, we wanted to leverage the application in terms of having a really detailed view of what our customers are doing on the website, cases, opportunities, all that good stuff, so that anytime somebody calls in or sends us an email, that we can quickly have that history. We were on a service before called NetSuite, which is a competitor to Salesforce, and it was terrible. Nobody liked using it. The navigation was awful, and so we wanted to find something that was still web-based, but that everybody really enjoyed using. And because of that, we drive the adoption through leaderboards, basically kind of team performance and seeing where people stack up. And because of that, we look also at kind of the peer benchmarking. I don't know if you guys get those newsletters as the admin, but it tells you kind of how you're performing against other companies within your industry segment. And we always try to go for that 10x. Like, we always try to push the limit. So that's one of the other reasons and ways that we drive user adoption. And we have all kinds of custom reports. We report on everything. We use tags and so forth in the reports. And then we're big dashboard users as well.
I've never heard of NetSuite, David. I don't know what you're saying.
So because of this, some of the kind of quick results, we were able to, actually, Salesforce's PR team has been really good for us. It's a great story in terms of 10 users and 100,000 customers. So because of that, we were able to be nominated and win this CRM magazine award, so we're very grateful for that. But all that comes from basically driving leads through Google, Yahoo, and MSN in terms of like a search marketing strategy, and having those leads come in where we offer them a white paper where they download using kind of a web to lead form. And once they're in the lead queue, now we can actually see what's happening through the lead life cycle, and that's really where that kind of percentage of increase in the number of new leads. And we also are applying cost data to those various campaigns, so now we can look at ROI. And then we follow that right through to the sales. So it's been a great tool for us.
Great, thanks, David. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but that's a terrific growth rate of 534%. And we would love to hear from you on how you achieved that growth rate, hopefully in a discussion soon. All right, now I'd like to welcome Ken. Ken has started not one, but two companies, Law Prospector and Animators at Law. A completely different model in the legal industry, and I would love for him to come and share with us on what he does and how he got these organizations started.
Thank you, Sam. I'm Ken Lopez. I'm based in the D.C. area. It's just such a thrill to be here. Salesforce and Force.com has done so much for us. I really owe these guys a lot. So it's a pleasure for me to give back by coming out and talking to you folks today. So please do ask lots of questions today, because I think that's going to be really valuable. How I got here. Animators at Law is a company I founded after law school in 1995. It's a services company that's a consulting company that consults with very large law firms engaged in very large trials, and we create all the graphics that are used to teach and persuade judges and juries. It's a neat company that's about half lawyers and half artists. And it was about 2 years ago that we had this great system for figuring out who might need our services. We would go out to the court records, we'd pull all this information down from the court records, we'd try to associate our clients, and this was right about when we were starting to use Salesforce in a real serious way. And so we were collecting tons and tons of data, and what struck us was, geez, there are a lot of companies like us, not necessarily graphics, but the litigation support industry is about a $15 billion industry. So we said, I wonder if there isn't some way we could turn this around and take that data that we're collecting already and create an app and sell it to the litigation support marketplace. So we started doing that. We were in beta for about a year. We started doing that in February of this year. It's hugely successful. It's growing very fast. And so we're selling information about the legal marketplace, which lawyers are busy, which law firms are busy, who might need your services now. It's a really neat sort of implementation of Salesforce. And by the way, it was a couple lawyers, myself and a couple others, who built this product, like literally like staying up at night. We're not techie guys, we're not computer scientists by any stretch. And that's what I think makes our story really interesting, is we spent weeks to build this, and then we went to market, and it's been really a fantastic build ever since. So in our database in Law Prospector, that's the brand and the company we've associated with this. I call it a software product, but I get in trouble if I do that here. We've got about data on the top 200 law firms in the country, which are the really big ones. We've got about 100,000 contacts that we're managing, and we're capturing data on about 50,000 cases we're up to now in our system, and then we're serving this all up to our clients. And that's in some ways kind of straightforward. What's really interesting is we just launched an initiative. It's a new product that we call Law Prospector Direct, where we're actually using Salesforce to Salesforce to share this data directly to other people's instances. So it's a really sort of neat thing that we're able to move that quantity of data. It's a lot back and forth with different organizations. We're really proud of it. Thanks. So I'm not much of a bullet point guy. Let me give you the bottom line. So I've run this services company for a long time, 12 years or so. You know, it runs pretty well. It's growing at 10, 15% a year. That's great. But I'm a startup guy. I love the startup energy. And in getting this software company going, it's been an absolute life-changing event for me. It's been a thrill. It's financially rewarding to the point where within it's about a 6-month window, we're almost there, we will exceed the revenue of our 14-year-old company with this little startup that's less than a year old, which no way could we have done this without Salesforce and Force.com. That just wouldn't have happened. So we're really grateful and thankful and happy to be here.
Thank you, Ken, and again, we'll love to talk to you more. All right, so and with this, I would welcome Phil Neal Walker with the Phil Neal Walker Law Corporation. Now, Phil is also a lawyer, and he has challenged the rigidity in the legal industry and is using Salesforce.com as a software not only to manage his business virtually, but also provide service to his clients. Right, Phil?
Great. Have we got any lawyers in the house today? Good. I knew it. I thought so. At first I thought your arm was stuck like in a sling, and I thought, oh, she's going to make some money today. Good for her. My name is Phil Walker, and I am delighted to be with you. You probably are sitting here looking at me and thinking, okay, what does he look like? Lawyer, professional, businessman. That's right. But let me cut to the crap. I am a revolutionary because I've worked for law firms for 30 years and think they're filled with the biggest morons and worst business people I've ever met in my entire life. Let me tell you what happened to me. I'm also a professional speaker. And one of the things speakers know is that in every audience you're going to have 4 types of people. The first group are what are called the analyticals. These are the engineers, computer people. Their motto is just give me the facts. The second group are the leaders. They're the lions of the universe. And what they want is tell me the problem, what was the solution, what were the results. The third group is my group. We're called the inspirationals. We're the otters of the animal world. And we want stories. Just tell us stories all day long and we're happy. And the fourth group are the Labrador Retrievers. They're called the win-win people because what they want is a win-win at the end of everything. So a great speaker and a great trial lawyer knows that in every audience he will have those 4 types. And he builds his speech in order to speak to each of those people. So let me speak to the analyticals first. Here are the facts. In practice for 1 year, clients, University of California, Walmart, Stanford, Zenith Insurance Company, the 3rd biggest insurance company in California, 19 cities and counties in the state. So that's pretty darn good. Where did I come from before? House Counsel, U.S. Steel, General Counsel, the biggest real estate firm in New York City. Douglas Elliman is the name of it. And then I was managing workers' compensation for a big law firm named Lewis Brisbois. Bunch of total morons. And so literally what happened to me was I knew how to build a business, and every time I tried to build a business, these moron lawyers would say, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that. And finally I said, this is crazy making. I'm going to go out and build my own business. But I had a problem. Let me tell you what it was. I wanted to start my own firm. I didn't have a whole bunch of money. I didn't want to sign a lease for 5 or 10 years because I didn't want the overhead expense. And I didn't know how big I was going to be. And I also knew there were some things that had to be solved. So what did I do? I decided to build law in a totally different way. First, I went to a marketing company. They said, what do clients hate the most? They hate that they never know what their bill's going to be. They know the hourly rate, but they never know how much they're going to pay. So the marketing people said, sell log for a flat fee. Tell them you're going to do this task for $500. So I did it. Second thing, I didn't want to get offices in the lease, so I said, I'm going to create a virtual law firm. Everybody told me I'm crazy. I have 24 people working for me in a virtual law firm right now. Third, I use a different sales process. Most lawyers, how do they get clients? They take you out, take you to dinner, and hope they get one case from you. How stupid is that? So I use the classic funnel technique where we bring a client into a small task for a low amount of money, have them like what they get, then we sell them a higher thing and a higher thing. It's called the funnel process. And I have a universe in California of 1,400 companies that I can work from, and I needed a platform that would do the lead management for me. I also needed something that would ultimately end up permitting communication with everybody, and I had to solve the biggest problem lawyers have. The thing clients hate most about lawyers is clients need information, but they can never get your lawyer. Because if your lawyer is good, he is in court or in depositions. He's not sitting around answering the phone going, yes, Brenda lied in the deposition. So how was I going to solve this? I created a database where the clients can go in 24/7 and get updates on their cases. And boy, do the clients love it. They don't have to talk to the doctor. They can go in at the last moment and nobody knows that they're in there getting that information. So I ended up creating a company that the lawyers like, the clients like, and the customers like. And imagine this. I have no offices. I work out of my condo 3 blocks from here, right across from AT&T Park. I have no employees. Everybody who works for me is an independent contractor, and I only pay them when the clients pay. My overhead is 10% of gross revenues. An additional 10% of gross revenues is split equally amongst all team members at the end of the year, and every person on the team contributes 10% to a charity of their choice every year. And as a result of putting this all together, I ended up getting these gigantic clients. Why did I go to Salesforce? First, I didn't want to go to a law company because they were going to think in a certain way, and I was trying to think out of the box. I went to Salesforce because I had a 27-year-old working for me, and he said, I worked there as a temp. It's a really cool company. That was enough for me. We went to meet with them. I told them exactly what I wanted, and 2 things happened that literally changed my life. The first was they never said no. I told them exactly what I needed, and they said, we can do that. If you work with legal companies, let me tell you, you never hear that. And second, I didn't hesitate to say to them, I don't understand what you're saying. Could you speak in English to me rather than computerese? And they could do it. Now, I had a 27 and 23-year-old back me up as well. You should definitely get some 27s and 23s, okay? Because they view the world a different way. And so what did I do? I took the Salesforce platform. I built a document management system where all of our documents are online, so the attorneys can work from anywhere. Number 2, I put all of our accounting and billing inside that, so the accounting people can work from anywhere. Number 3, we have a lead management system built in where every place I speak, every contact gets put through the funnel process. Number 4, we built the claims database so that all of the people who are our clients can go in and get information 24/7. And then finally, we came to this platform so that as we add lawyers, it's easy for them to go in. It's intuitive, and they can do everything on it with minimal training. And here was the final reason I chose Salesforce. In America, I'm a workers' comp lawyer. I defend companies. I defend them when their employees get injured. Well, if you notice what's happening in the world today, all the jobs are leaving the United States. And the jobs are moving to India and China. I'm a workers' comp lawyer. That means I have to go where the jobs are. I went to Salesforce because they have 30 languages, including Hindi and Chinese, and they had currency conversion. And so because of using this platform, I am literally able to expand from California to Nevada to New York to Florida to China to India by snapping my fingers and literally associating with lawyers there, announcing that we have opened operations. And the reason that we've got all these companies is really simple. We cut their workers' comp costs
in half. If any of you have got companies and you want to cut your workers' comp costs in half, I'll do it for you. And the bottom line is, because we use systems through a computer program that produce results. And anybody here can do it. And the end result is, I have to tell you, my feeling about this is the same thing. I don't know if any of you had that experience the first time you saw an iPhone. But I remember I didn't think I needed an iPhone. Until I was sitting at dinner in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Some friend with me is going like this up to the music. I go, what are you doing? He said, oh, I have an application that tells you who the singer on that song is. I said, you got to be kidding. Then they totaled up the check and told everybody what we owed based on their iPhone. And I said, let me see that damn thing. So I looked at that iPhone, and that moment I said, I got to have this. And as my clients began to touch the Salesforce platform and see the new way law was going to be delivered to them, flat prices, instant information, lawyers whenever they needed them, they said exactly the same thing. And if any of you work in professional services, let me be blunt, here's a prediction. The days of the big old law firms, Ken's clients, bye-bye, okay? Because I can beat them on price, I can beat them on time, and I can beat them on quality. Why? I don't pay for big offices in downtown San Francisco. My lawyers make 3 times what the lawyers in the big firms do, and they can go on vacation anytime they want. And that's pretty darn attractive. And my clients get what they want at the lowest price and the best result. And it's going to wipe that big old law firm out. And when those morons I work for are carried out and sent off to the poorhouse, I'll be jumping up and down in the street with a Salesforce logo.
Thank you very much, Phil. That was really inspiring. I hope you do consulting and public speaking, get some pointers. All right, thanks to all 3 of you. So as you've noticed here, small organizations really, challenging, big organizations, getting big customers. We heard a couple of names, Walmart, Stanford. We'll hear more from some of our folks here. In fact, at this point, I would like to start with some questions for our panel here. And the first question, I'm sure some of you guys are thinking, and kind of talks to our track here. Small firms, big clients. How does that happen? Right. So the first question I have, David, I'll start with you. You have companies like CBS, NBC, that are using your service today. Do you want to speak to our audience and let them know, how did you get these customers, and what are you offering that others don't?
I think it really comes down to same thing that these guys are doing is offering a similar service at the end of the day that's getting the results for our clients, but at a fraction of the cost. And we're able to do that by keeping our overheads low, and basically keeping everything as virtual as possible. And we have a saying in our company that speed is money, so we try to make everything run as fast as possible. So workflow approvals, automated emails, and I think that's one of the key drivers is just really understanding what our business process is, and then optimizing that and speeding it up.
Great, thanks, thank you. Ken, I have a question for you. So, before you even get started with this, obviously there's some challenges. There's the understanding of Salesforce. What would be your #1 tip for people here today on how to get started with Salesforce? How did you get started with Salesforce?
I'm that guy who tries to assemble my daughter's bicycle without reading the manual. I've got triplets, so there's a lot of bicycles. And for me, with Salesforce, I dove in and tinkered. So I tinkered, and I tried basic things, then I layered on something else. Then I called support. I talked to people. I made friends within the organization. If I'm just starting out, my sort of #1 tip that I always offer people is start with clean data. We have such a big database right now, and we were careful in the beginning, thank God, about really managing our data that went into the system, because if you do that right, it just pays off down the road in terms of time.
Sure, perfect. Phil, would you like to add something to that?
Very simple. Don't know anything about Salesforce when you start. Know what you want, go in, tell them what you want. They'll find an application that will do it. That's my experience. Second, if there is this moment where somebody uses a word with you that you don't understand, don't be embarrassed to say you don't understand it, and ask them to explain it. If they can't explain it to you in a way you can understand, it means they don't understand it and they're bullshitting. And then the third thing is, Get a 23 and a 27-year-old. Okay? They view the world, I'm 54. They view the world differently than 54-year-olds do. And they think about things that never entered my mind. And that's the greatest asset that I've had. Because they've come up with solutions that old-fashioned lawyers, it would take them a year to come up with. They're like, well, we use this one and this one and this one, boom, it's done. I'm like, okay, I'm going home.
And I'm sure some of you here are either getting started with Salesforce or haven't started using Salesforce. Just a raise of hands, if any of you fall in that category, new with Salesforce games. Okay, we'd love to hear from you, hopefully in a bit, on some questions you might have from our panel here. One more question I got. This one's for you, Ken. You've talked about how you're using Salesforce not only to manage your business, but also provide a service for your customers. And can you talk about how you build on the platform and how does that all work?
It's a great question. The way we got started in building Law Prospector was kind of exactly the same way I got started in Salesforce. It was start tinkering. It's like, what if we needed to brand this? Okay, well, we can change the logo up there, but only if we create a new application up there. What if we wanted to expose only certain portions of this to our subscribers? We figured out we'll use the security sharing model. Now we're moving on to, wow, we want to move massive chunks of data between instances. Now we want to create our own interface on the front end. So it's a completely branded experience. And from the last session, connects with Google visualizations. We're really diving in on all of those things. And it just, the system is easy enough to use so that, clever folks, non-technical clever folks can get into it and do make a world-class product. I mean, we did it.
Cool. David, would you like to share on how you're using Salesforce today? Obviously, you have your website where I can go and kind of preview some of this, some of the voices, but how does that all kind of connect to Salesforce?
We actually, we're still at the point where we have an old kind of MySQL database so that we sync every hour on the hour with Salesforce. So we use the API to do that. And we just do kind of, which is very useful, so that way when somebody, any changes that are done on our website and vice versa, or Salesforce, it basically connects, and updates. And that was just, an issue of really wanting to have the most, back to clean data, most up-to-date data at all times.
Perfect. Cool. So what I want to do now, actually, I have a few more questions that I do want to go through, but I think the best way to do this is kind of get you guys engaged here as well. So I would open up the floor now to some questions. We have another half an hour left in the session, so I would love to hear from you guys. Any questions for our panel, and then kind of we'll have a conversation. Go ahead, please.
I have a question for Phil.
Okay. And if you don't mind, is there a mic they can use? If you don't mind speaking to the mic so everybody can hear you.
So the
This is like being on Oprah.
Two more
the
years.
application that you've built, I guess you're kind of outsourcing that to your other, what do you call them in America, lawyers, attorneys, or whatever. But the question is, how do you make sure that they are consistently using the tool, and how do you train them if they're so far away from you? How are you keeping that connection, and what do you?
It's a very good question. Let me teach you the secret. All of the business comes in on the internet, okay? And all of the billing is done by us centrally from the Salesforce platform. All of the data on the files is kept on the Salesforce platform. So the attorneys do online training with us of what they need to do. We actually also have retreats every 6 months where they come and do online training. But if a lawyer tries to do an end run on me and go to a client directly, we cut off his access to the platform. So he has no information on his case.
Harsh.
It solves it. I mean, it just solves it.
Just cut their head off at the same time, chuck them in the river.
Yeah, the files are referred to the law firm. The law firm is essentially the owner of the file, and then the attorney works on it.
And I guess
it'd be the same as if you fired a lawyer in your law firm.
Yeah, and you can do that because obviously Salesforce, it's just a deactivate, get rid of them.
Bye-bye.
So the other thing I was just going to say
But
is
we haven't had to do that because, I mean, that's, you have to think about the possibility because you're always going to get a rotten apple down the road. But we haven't had to do that at all because imagine if you're a lawyer and you've got this business coming into you large clients that if you were working independently, you wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So we have not faced that problem, and I think at some point we will. Somebody will say, I might be able to make some money off of this, and then I'll just go, bing, okay, have a great life.
Cool. I was just going to say maybe you should hook up with David and get yourself on the voice.com.
Yeah.
Rent yourself out as well.
I think so too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you have a story about that, Ken? Did you find out yesterday? We talked about, Ken and I talked yesterday, and Ken was wondering if he actually used voices.com in getting the service, and I don't know if you found that out or not. But
I've already made an apology because I wrote back to the office. Apparently, we hired some other guys. Now that I know David will never do that again.
Taking connections in the cloud. Anybody else with any questions? Sure.
I think this is for each of you. Can you give us a sense of how you've been able to use the new capabilities that you've built in your sales pitch? How have you differentiated yourselves when you go and sell your services to your prospects? What do you now have that you can show them that you didn't have before?
Everybody hear that question?
Oh, can I speak to that? Let me tell you the secret all trial lawyers learn. If you control the conversation, you win. If you let the other side control the conversation, you lose. Lawyers tend to go in and essentially beg and beseech companies to hire them. And they have no differentiation except they say, we're smarter, we're better, we'll get back to you more quickly, and they've got resumes of all these people that all look exactly the same. Nobody can tell any difference. So, and they try and dazzle you with the size of their office and all the rest. Well, this is all rubbish right now because nowadays, people do, what's happening is people don't care if you have a big building. What they care about is your website and what you look like on the web. The first thing a company will look at is your web presence. For me, when I go in, I don't sit and say to Walmart, what would you like me to do for me? I come in and say, this is what we're going to do for you. This is what the dollar savings are going to be. These are going to be the tools that we're going to use. And if you would like to work with us, absolutely great. And if this doesn't work for you, bye-bye. There are plenty more who do. And what's weird about that, I know you may think that is counterintuitive in sales, but it totally changes the power in the relationship, and it completely differentiates you from any other lawyer. And so it's like me handing the iPhone of law to Walmart, and they all start going like, oh, ah! Well, it's the exact same experience. Once they get it, they're not talking about how big Pillsbury's office is or anything else. They don't care. So it completely changes the conversation. And so you give them three things: the best price, the best results, and the coolest tool. How hard is that? It's not.
Ken, David, do you have anything to add?
Is it okay?
Go ahead.
He's a tough act to follow here. We have over 35,000 voice actors, and if anybody's worked with an actor or have a spouse that's one, I mean, they're artistic people, very sensitive, and so we've taken that kind of profile and applied that to how we actually serve these people. So our customer service reps aren't customer service reps; they're customer care specialists. We try to show people that we really care, and like we'll say, we just have our kind of our own internal jargon about showing love and that kind of thing, and really inspiring them to tell them that they did a good job. If they closed a deal to do voiceovers for NBC, then we'll send them a note. So we're almost in like really a support role for their career, and that kind of, I think that's one of the main things that people notice about when they do and deal with our company is that they have a toll-free phone number, a live chat, and we always reply to email within 24 hours. And people get a sense that we actually care about their career and advancing their career. So that's how we use it.
Thanks, David. Ken?
I'm just going to talk about how the platform allows us to differentiate when we're going to market and trying to close a deal. At the most basic level for law prospector prospects, because we're on Salesforce, because we actually include that as part of our sales pitch. Our product is built on the Force.com platform. That gives us some cachet and a belief, accurately I think, that we're utilizing the latest technologies. We're far ahead of, there's some other folks who provide information about what's going on in big litigation. But they don't do it very well. They're these old, stodgy companies. So we're seen as this upstart that's really delivering information very quickly. So that's one of the basic ways, is sort of a brand association. At a more complex level, when we're doing Salesforce to Salesforce sharing, where we're actually taking our data, pushing it directly into someone's Salesforce account, like one of your own, what we're able to do then is, if they're trying to target lawyers at big law firms, they find out that a new case has been filed, and they get an alert in their Salesforce account. They get direct reports sent to them on a daily basis on what's going on with all their key law firm accounts. And so we're able to use all the latest tools to sort of tie it together. I said yesterday in a blog post, every time Salesforce releases a new feature, it frankly becomes one of our features. When Salesforce released mobile, all of a sudden there's Law Prospector Mobile. And we're very excited about Chatter. We think we'll be able to have Law Prospector, a social networking component of Law Prospector next year. So quite thrilled.
Right, thank you. Thanks. Anybody else have questions? Go ahead.
It's probably a little legal based. How do you use Salesforce for conflicts check?
So the question, I think she asked, was how do you use Salesforce for conflict tracking?
Yeah, for conflict checks for new clients.
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. We have inside a list of all the clients, okay? We are a small enough firm that we can do it simply based upon the list. But when we get large, we're going to have to find an application that goes in with it. So I don't have the answer for you right now. It's just done on a like Word spreadsheet right now. It's not
How have you integrated your billing?
through QuickBooks.
You sync it with QuickBooks?
Yeah, we sync it quickly because most people are familiar with QuickBooks. And what we found is that most law billing programs have so many additional bells and whistles beyond what the client wants to see. The client wants to see, how much money do I need to pay you? Okay? Now remember, I have an advantage. Because I do flat fee billing, my clients know what the amount is going to be before they ever receive the bill. So I have 100% collection on my bills, and I have absolutely no billing reduction. It's a whole new way of doing the business, and I don't get any delays with them because they can't use that stuff of, oh, we need to audit your bill or whatever, because they knew what the rate was up front.
So what program links QuickBooks with Salesforce?
I'll have to get, if you give me your email, I'll have my 23-year-old answer that for you. I don't have the slightest idea, nor do I want to know.
There was a whole session on that exact topic, actually, with tools for integrating QuickBooks and Salesforce. And there's a couple different ways you can do it.
I want to throw a question out. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, you can download the presentation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
For everyone here, every presentation here at Dreamforce this week is either already up or will very soon be up on our website and recorded.
I think there's something about just the session where they said they would be posted.
Okay.
So there
So
are
for
some,
that session.
I think when it was a session on what's coming up in the platform, so it was forward thinking, things that have been more like what the roadmap is, which I can 100%
Right.
understand, but, so not everything.
Yeah.
Anything like a future looking may not be.
safe harbor forbidden.
Yeah,
And just to add to the conversation we just had here, I mean, Salesforce.com obviously can integrate with a lot of systems. And just a raise of hands, anybody here knows that their Salesforce is connected to other systems through an integration?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody here? A few hands. So maybe you want to speak with a couple of the folks here and then kind of get some idea. All right, I'm going to throw a question out here, and really kind of speaks to the theme here. Small firms, big customers. When you get big customers, obviously it's really important to manage that relationship to kind of make sure the customers are happy. Again, what services are you providing? It doesn't have to be Salesforce specific. In general, that is ensuring that you don't lose these customers. I mean, anything, David, you want to share?
Well, I mean, we do, basically our biggest customers are all the major television networks and radio stations. It's basic stuff. I mean, we have dedicated support analysts, dedicated account executives, just try to use the top accounts to identify who those are. So
right.
Standard out-of-the-box reporting, and then just be on a cycle of always touching base. So workflow rules, just that assigns a task every 30 days just to quickly touch base.
Sure. Do you have any kind of reports that you run? You said you had a couple of reports.
The top accounts is one of the best ones,
Okay.
just to flag who these people are.
Cool. Ken, did you have any?
A couple of answers. We also use workflow rules to force, if you will, our sales folks to reach out to customers. At least it sets up a task that then the managers can see. I think that makes an enormous difference. We also use Salesforce. We're collecting all this data about the courts. So one of the things we're able to do is see who's busy in the courts, and we get really interesting visualizations using Salesforce and just looking at the data. We can figure out which lawyers are busiest in the country. One of the challenges that everyone in litigation support had throughout the Great Recession, as they're calling it, is that the same people who were busy 3 years ago aren't anymore.
Yeah.
There's a shift going on in legal. So one of the great things for us is we can see it by just looking into our Salesforce instance. Those guys aren't busy anymore. They're still our friends. We'll call them now and then. But we're going to focus on the folks who are busy. So that's the way we're using the tool.
Great,
Yeah.
cool. Phil, I mean, you have Walmart, and Walmart's, from what I hear, is a difficult customer to
Nightmare.
work with.
Let me tell you what we did, and it's such an interesting question. The more computer you become and the more information access people have, the more important I think it is to still have the personal touch. That's why I think David's comment about the notes and everything was so key. So let me tell you what we did. We created what we call a case manager whose job, a non-lawyer, whose job is to constantly stay in touch with the client by telephone, actually, and also by email. And I hired young women because most of my clients are young women working in insurance companies or places like Walmart, and they bond on the telephone, talking about guys they're dating, whatever, And I tried to find a demographic that was similar to who my clients were, and now they're all best friends. Second thing we did, we created a frequent flyer club. And the people who send us the most business get membership in the frequent flyer club, and then they get an hour teleseminar with me every week going over the latest things that are happening in the world of law. They also get things for free. We create a list of all the doctors in California who do the best workers' comp evaluations, and we charge everybody for that except our frequent flyer customers and send that out to them. Because all of you know how much you like it if you get upgraded to first class, how much you like it if you get to go to the VIP lounge. So we decided, and we call our frequent flyers VIP lounge, okay? They love that. And then the other thing that we ended up doing about this is we're constantly coming out with new benefits for our VIP customers. And let me be really blunt. The reason we want to do this is the more VIPs we have, the more money we have, because you only get in the club if you're in our top 20% of revenue generators, basically. So I think you really have to use the belief that the computer can do everything is totally wrong. And in this environment, personal things like the handwritten thank you note, the personal contact from someone you know, and the touch makes all the difference in the world.
Thanks, Phil. Cool. Anybody, any questions come up? Okay. One question that I've been thinking about a lot is you're using Salesforce today as it is. There's a lot of different features you use in Salesforce, and we just announced Chatter, and I'm sure we're going to keep announcing new things. What is the vision to grow with the application today? And start with you, David, again. What are you using today, and what do you want to use later, and how do you see that benefiting your business?
Yeah, I think it's just tying in more of our customer service components. So I was in a great session with talking about Salesforce and how you use a company called LiveOps, basically, that integrates the telephone systems. So when a call comes in, that you guys know who that person is, even route them if they have premier support.
Right.
Some really great features. So basically, eliminating the touch 1, touch 2, and just using kind of call display and that number to get them to the best person who can answer on that question. So,
Ooh, good.
Yeah, it looked pretty impressive. So really, where we're going with that is integration with the phone system, because it's kind of it's separate from everything else, and that seems to be the broken leg right now in our communications channels.
Sure. Are we ever going to see voices.com on sites, Salesforce sites?
We were talking about that last night. It comes down to your customer portal, and we priced it. It was like $23 million, and it was not working for 100,000 users. So we're working on that.
I'm sure we can help you scale with the portal. Never an issue. Ken, would you like to share some vision with us?
Yeah, we're also looking down the road for using sites. That's actually the next thing on my list to do, because branding, branding's key. And right now we have this. We're sort of branded, but every once in a while you see some things that are very Salesforce-y. And to the extent we can create a completely branded experience, we're looking to do that. But I haven't figured out sites yet. I missed that session yesterday.
Phil, any future plans?
Well, I'm going to be eating dim sum in Shanghai and curry in Mumbai, but let me tell you my vision. When Salesforce gets smart enough to realize the big bucks are in the professional services industry, call me.
All right. How many of you guys are using portals today or sites in your organization to kind of speak with your customers? Are you guys in the thousands or scaling with the portal technology today? Okay. Speak to your account executive. And the other thing too is, questions I get, I work with I work with a small business organization, and I do work with a lot of small organizations. One of the things that they always think about, not only growing with Salesforce or kind of getting more customers, but growth in general. You want to be a bigger organization, provide better service. Future plans of growing as an organization, and how you see Salesforce as a fit in that growth. Ken, any ideas?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, the beauty of Salesforce, and how we're using it is, it grows with us. I think that's obvious. We need one more person. We have one more subscriber. We just add one more account. But we're finding interesting ways to leverage that. I keep coming back to the Salesforce stuff. Is anyone using Salesforce at all? No. Sharing? Yeah. Okay. So it's a really neat technology to transfer stuff between instances of different companies. Really. And when we add a new company now, we used to sign up a subscriber account, and we'd have to get them 20 EE licenses, and that got pretty expensive. Now, we just set them up for free, by the way, in Salesforce to Salesforce. So our cost of adding new customers is actually zero, except our hard cost to Salesforce. And the beauty is, for the most part, these are customers who weren't using Salesforce before. So we're able to sort of bring them into the group and get them using Salesforce. So it's really a win-win. Was that so? A win-win for everybody.
Yeah. That's an excellent. Go ahead. What's the question?
Can I just ask Ken a question?
Yeah, please.
So your customers have access to your system. You're not like an exchange product.
Yeah,
The question is.
Repeat the question, actually, unless you want to go just repeat it.
I'll repeat it. The question was, do our customers have access to our Salesforce instance, our database, or are we an App Exchange product? The answer is both. Really, we are one. It's very interesting. We have one Salesforce database on which my first company, Animators at Law, that whole sales team uses, and there's a bunch of service folks that use it. The Law Prospector company, which is a part of the same thing, they also use a piece of it, but everybody has different page layouts and different fields. And then the subscribers come into it from a totally different angle. And then the folks who are using the Salesforce to Salesforce sharing, they come at that same data from a totally different angle. So it's all the same data. We're just sort of serving it up in different little ways to different groups.
So how do you cope with data? I don't know if you have data protection laws in the States, but we've got quite strong laws. So how do you cope with that with security and access?
The question is, how do we cope with data protection, and are there laws like that in the States? First, I suppose my flippant answer is, if there are laws, I don't want to know about them. Sorry. I think, and I am no expert on the security model at all, but what I know is that everybody who's accessing our system is doing so on the Salesforce system. There's no access coming in from another direction. And so we know we're operating in a trust a trustworthy environment. And so we're pretty confident of the security. I think.
Security settings and stuff, so if you see certain fields or certain things that certain profiles are locked down from, do you go to that level of detail?
The question is, do we have security settings so that certain profiles see certain fields? And the answer is absolutely. Everyone sees something different, and no one would really guess they're seeing the same database. It's fascinating, sort of how it's all set up.
Sure. Thanks, Ken. Go ahead.
So, just wondering, what were some of the challenges that you guys encountered in implementing Salesforce, and how did you get around them? I know I was involved in the Voices.com implementation, so it's just a question for everyone.
David, do you want to take that? Any challenges you faced with the implementation of Salesforce?
I mean, that's trying to go back here 5 years. Basically, I mean, getting the data in was always, one of the issues. We ran the free trial, I think 3 different times, and the whole purpose of the free trial for me was like, let's see how easily we can get the data in, use it, and then it would, we were basically doing that while our contract with NetSuite was running out. So that was the biggest challenge, was just getting it in there, and then we utilized on Salesforce those business processes initially. If you guys haven't seen them, they literally map out like how you should be using it from one step, right from a lead all the way through to closing the case, once they're already a customer. So they're very handy, and we use those. We print them off. Everybody has them on their desks. So once the data's in there, just getting everybody using it and the whole idea of adoption. Those are the 2 biggest issues.
And Ken, for you, I have an additional question to that. Yes, obviously, there's some challenges when you get a system implemented, and especially for you. You're delivering application, delivering service over Salesforce. I'm sure Salesforce, for example. If you want to talk about that as well, what some of the challenges were with the implementation of that.
Yeah, it's a good question. The big challenge for me is I'm not one of those people who picks up a new language quickly. My dad's from Spain. My last name's Lopez. I got double D's in Spanish in college. I tried really hard. The challenge for me in coming to Salesforce for the first time was learning the language, and I don't mean that by the code, the underlying sort of Apex code or something complicated like that. I mean just learning what these words that are sort of taken out of normal context, like instance. I distinctly remember being annoyed about that term. What in God's name is an instance? And now, I've drank the Kool-Aid and I use it all the time. So that was a great challenge for me. I suspect people who are good with picking up new languages will probably not have that hurdle. But for folks like me, I sort of wish I had taken the time to read, okay, when we're talking about instance, it means this. When we're talking about this, it means this in normal people language. And to Phil's point, what I probably should have done in retrospect is have that conversation with my account exec and say, can we just give me a half hour, and I'm going to run down the 50 words that I have no idea what you're talking about. They're words I understand, but I don't know what they mean in this context.
So do you know now which pod your org is in?
Is that NA4?
I'll spend that half an hour. Phil,
Let me share something great we did about this, because it's such a good question. Ken is a real good example. Did you hear him say, I'm the one who tries to assemble my daughter's bike without reading the instructions? That's a lawyer. Lawyers and doctors are identical. They think they're smarter than everybody else in the world, and they can figure it out. Okay? And if you go to most of the law firms in the United States, you'll find that most of the older lawyers, the only thing they really use their computer for is email. They don't have a clue how to use anything else. So let me tell you what we did. We found for our internal team, we literally moved our entire office from San Francisco to Provincetown, Massachusetts for a week. Because our firm is virtual, we unplugged on a Friday, flew to Boston, drove to Provincetown, rented houses, plugged in on Monday. And our clients never knew that we had changed. We got printers and all that stuff. But we then literally had hands-on sessions for all of our people, starting from press this button to turn the computer on. Okay? And we had separate processes for the lawyers, the secretaries, and the account people. Then we brought them together when we were doing the lead management part. The second thing we found is with our own clients, getting them to use it, there's one secret. We've got to let them touch the iPhone. We have to bring them in and let them play for a day. So let me tell you what we do. We claim that we're doing a day-long seminar on updates in workers' comp law. Fascinating. And we do that for about 30 minutes. And then we say, we want to show you our new tool. And then we get them playing on it, and we usually have loaded one of their cases in so they can see. And then we have lunch, and then we show them the rest of it. And then we talk a little bit more about workers' comp at the end. And the secret is they've got to touch the actual thing and play with it until they like it. Because you know how most people work? They go to a product and they want to play and push buttons and all that stuff, and it's only when they can't make something happen that then they say, can you help me? And the secret is being there at that moment and saying, sure, but not interfering until that moment comes. If you've been to most trainings, what happens is the trainers go so fast that all you want to do is vomit, because they're clicking and going, and now you hit up here, and then you go over here, and you click over here, and you just go, whoo, I'm zoning out. Wonder what I'll do this weekend. But it doesn't happen when they're working at their own speed. So that's what you got to do.
And then just so you know, I mean, you guys, I'm sure iPhone's an example, BlackBerry, Trio, any device you use, you can access Salesforce. We're running at the top of the hour here. Anybody else with a question or two for our panel here? Yes, please.
One question that I have is, how do you get others to dock into your system? Do they always have to have a user, or do they have to buy it, who's paying for this? Because when you have a channel and you have a lot of users, as you mentioned, it gets incredible expensive.
Yeah, I'll take that. But for us, there's a couple ways folks log into our system. So, and that was one of the great challenges. You know, we started in the beginning. It's like, okay, we have this cool idea. We'll just every time we sign up a new subscriber, we give them a license. So we started. Everyone had EE licenses, and then we got up to, you know, I don't know, 50, 60 licenses, and then we're like, uh-oh, this is expensive.
Yeah.
And when you start adding on the numbers. So we worked actually with our account exec and sales engineer, and so we brainstormed. And we said, how do we do this? And they said, well, why don't we look at the partner portal as a method for, and the partner portal licenses are pretty inexpensive. So we could create, so we have two classes of licenses for our subscribers. One is what we call an admin license, and the other one's a standard license. The admin licenses are really EE accounts, enterprise level accounts. And the standard licenses are partner portal accounts, which for the most part we set up as read-only. And then the admin level accounts are, you can do some stuff with our product.
Right.
So that's the way we handle it.
So basically you can be creative with the licensing in Salesforce to kind of achieve that. Maybe we'll take one last question from anybody before we summarize here. Please, go ahead.
I'm working with a public relations firm in their life. I'm used to an IT firm, and so this is a total change in my thinking. What they tell me, the most important thing that new customers, and in this economy, that's where their focus is in relationships. They said that the main way they get customers is through relationships. They go out to parties, events, everything, shake hands, government. They get to know everyone. I'm trying to figure out how Salesforce can assist in that. Do you, I mean, I know how to get web to read and forms on the website, and I know all the traditional stuff, but I feel a little stumped at what's the best use of Salesforce to encourage relationships and sort of bring the customer in, talk to them, and then back to the customer.
Yeah, I would treat each of those events that you do as its own campaign within Salesforce. So, I mean, we struggle with the same thing, which was I only envision campaigns as being like a postcard going out. But a campaign, you just set up different types of campaigns. So, website is one campaign, email is another campaign, and events and conferences is another campaign for us. So that way we track, actually, when you come back at those business cards, the stack of business cards, you actually associate all of those people with that campaign. So you know if it was worthwhile even going out to that event. And you also have that as the campaign source. So you know where you originally, your firm originally connected with that person. So I would explore campaigns a little bit further. Yeah. And then I mean, because you can do great things like campaign hierarchy, campaign influence.
Right. No, I can talk to you more about that
Yeah.
with the whole Facebook and Twitter integration. There's a few things you can do. Folks, that wraps up the demonstration today and the panel discussion. I would like to thank all you guys for participating and being here, and I want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you very much.